Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Jack Hagel. Over the past 4 years, more than $1 billion has gone towards recruitment and retention bonuses for North Carolina school employees. But now the pot of money for those bonuses is mostly gone. School systems are now trying to figure out how to continue incentivizing teachers, bus drivers, and other employees to stay at a time of high turnover. WRAL Education Insider Emily Walkenhorst has been looking into the issue, and she joins us now. Emily, welcome back.
Always glad to be here.
Emily, teaching has never been an easy profession, but it became particularly difficult during the COVID-19 pandemic. Remind us how things have changed for teachers in recent years.
Right. So that was a huge transition period. Schools went remote. Teachers at first went remote, and then at some point a lot of them were expected to be back in the classroom just by themselves, filming themselves teaching, managing class in a very different way, calling on kids in Zoom instead of in person. And that was very stressful. Anytime your job makes a huge transition like that, it's different from if your job is always done on a computer and you just do it from a computer in a different room. But for teaching, it's extremely interactive. So that was a very stressful time for them. And then, school came back into session. Maybe a lot of teachers realized, hey, a lot of my friends are actually working remotely now on a regular basis. And, maybe by comparison, you realize that your job is very different. It's very stressful, very interactive, and doesn't have maybe some of the flexibilities now that other jobs do.
So it's no wonder that retention has been a challenge across the country, right?
Right. In that first year of the pandemic, teachers kind of stuck around. They didn't move around too much. Maybe there was a little fear, uncertainty. Some people put off retirement. That was another thing that happened. And so you didn't necessarily see a huge spike in teacher turnover right away. But starting about the fall of 2022, spring of 2023, turnover really reached a high point. People who put off retirement were now retiring. And we kind of, heard about these stress levels, people wanting to leave. I heard people talk about, just needing higher pay, finally needing higher pay. The cost of living is going up. I heard beginning teachers talk about all the hours they were working. They didn't think they were getting through to students who spent all their time on their cell phones and things like that. Those were just varying things that were told to me in interviews. We saw a huge spike in teacher turnover into 2023 of a few thousand more teachers quit in North Carolina than the year before.
Now, North Carolina and other states got lots of federal funding to sort of help with this transition during the pandemic. A lot of that money went to bonuses aimed at helping keep teachers and recruit new ones. How did that process work?
Right. Basically, North Carolina schools got what ended up being a total of $6.2 billion in federal stimulus dollars. They got that in 2020. The last of the funds came at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022, depending on when a school district applied for that money and got it. So over that time period, $6.2 billion come in. It all basically needs to be spent between a period of September 30th, 2022 and September 30th of 2024. So there's kind of a quick turnaround to disperse this funds, and bonuses were really a tool to address, hey, we're finally going back into in-person learning, and we have, cafeteria workers and bus drivers who haven't been working. We need to make sure they actually come in, they have jobs. We're worried about turnover. People are going to see this job market of remote work and these other things, and they gave out bonuses, largely in that first year of coming back to full-time in-person learning. And a lot of those have stayed over time for some of the hardest hit jobs. So maybe math teachers, special education teachers, bus drivers.
But now that money's going away.
Right, because the last batch of that money had to be spent by September 30th, 2024. We're several weeks past that now, and the money is basically gone.
Well, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll hear what some school systems are doing to recruit and retain workers now that federal funding has dried up. Stick around. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. We're talking with WRAL Education Insider Emily Walkenhorst about expiring federal education funds. Emily, these bonuses weren't just for teachers. Lots of other school employees will be affected, right?
Right. So, most every employee in some districts got these bonuses back when schools went to full-time in-person learning. Bus drivers are a big group that got the bonuses over a few years. Just trying to get people back into the school and keep them there was really the ultimate goal. And so at first, you didn't have to be a teacher or bus driver necessarily. In a lot of school districts, they were giving these bonuses to more people than just that.
What are you hearing from school employees? Is this something that's top of mind for them?
Well, so, anytime you talk about compensation, and compensation not returning next year, that's not a popular thing to say to somebody. Oh, this bonus you got this year, you're not going to get it next year. So there's obviously a desire among people to get these bonuses, especially when you consider, in education, public education as a whole, a constant theme that we're always hearing about is employees are underpaid, in some cases, comparable jobs in the private industry pay way more money than in the public schools, and so we kind of hear this constant theme. So, and a lot of people go through their careers, with this in the back of their mind. So, we heard about Franklin County, for example. They had a longevity bonus is what they called it. Basically a bonus for your experience. If you had, 0 years of experience, this was your first year with the school system, you got 500. And if you had been with the school system for a few decades, you got 4,500. That's a significant chunk of money. I mean, if you earn $50,000 a year and you get $4,500 bonus, that's almost 10% of your salary. So, I mean, that's a pretty significant amount. I heard from bus drivers who, were given perfect attendance bonuses. And so they tried extra hard to get that perfect attendance. That wasn't always possible. If you have a sick child, you got to stay home with them. And so there was always kind of this disappointment that, they couldn't get this perfect attendance bonus every time. But the general feeling was, they have to work toward this bonus because they don't have a permanent level of funding that they think is high enough for them to live off of.
Now, it's not like this job has gotten any easier or the cost of living has gotten any lower. What are school systems doing in the absence of this federal funding to keep people in their jobs?
Right. So, we're talking about nearly $1.2 billion for these bonuses. And that wasn't all in 1 year. So, some of that is bonuses in back-to-back years. The state wouldn't need to come up with that exact amount to keep funding them, but that's still a huge amount of money. So, a school system might have spent a few $1,000,000 on bonuses. And so if they're looking for county money to replace that, they might be asking their county for a lot, especially if maybe they already need raises for maybe some other employees, or, maybe they're opening a new school and so they need to fund a few more employees, things like that. So it's, in Franklin County, they went to their commissioners and they said, we need $2.5 million to continue this longevity bonus, and they got it. And that was, a big effort on their part. County commissioners followed through, but they also went into that meeting with the county commissioners and had already cut their math teacher bonus. That was $4,000, and they said, we're only going to do $2,000 because we just can't afford the full $4,000 any longer. So there's a realization among a lot of school districts that we might be able to keep something. We're going to have to cut a lot because it is just too much money to continue.
Now, if systems can't figure out a way to find the funds for these bonuses, what happens?
They just have to end them. The state has added some bonuses in recent years. That's not for every county, so it's not going to, a lot of teachers are not going to end up seeing any of those things. Basically these bonus programs are just going to have to go away. I mean, there's just no other funding source. So the hope maybe is, maybe we can get raises. Maybe in a future budget from the state or the county, we can get something to replace it.
And what does that mean for recruitment and retention?
you have one less thing to say to potential recruits that this is a thing we offer you. When it comes to retention, that can be a slightly more complicated question because, in some cases, what you're relying on is that people understood that this bonus wasn't going to last forever. School systems often offer a bonus annually to every employee. So counties generally have what we call supplements, extra pay on top of what the state provides because they think their teachers need to be paid more. Well, in a lot of school systems, that is a semi-annual bonus. You get one in the fall, you get one in the spring. And so bonuses are kind of just this regular thing that you get. So, if suddenly you have another bonus coming in, it might not be super clear where that money is coming from. And so we did talk with a researcher who said that, in talking with teachers, they didn't necessarily understand that the bonus they were getting was a temporary one, that they would not be getting it again.
Now, lawmakers obviously have some say in whether or not teachers are paid more. Do you see the General Assembly as a solution here?
I think teacher pay is it's an issue that it's a winning issue, really. And so I think, there's always going to be an interest and there's always going to be pressure on the General Assembly to raise teacher pay. The question is really always, how much do we raise teacher pay? Which positions do we give the biggest raises to? So we have seen the General Assembly raise teacher pay in the last few budgets, but just not as high as, Democratic Governor Roy Cooper wanted them to raise teacher pay. There are a lot of teachers in the state, around 100,000, and then you have bus drivers on top of that. So being able to provide raises for all of them can cost quite a bit. And what we often hear from people is that something transformative really needs to happen. The market for people with commercial driver's licenses, which school bus drivers need to have, has really changed a lot. So, just a few years ago, bus drivers were only making $11 an hour in schools. And that was probably half what some of the private sector companies were offering. And they might have also offered a 40-hour week or year-round work or something that was at least a little bit more flexible with your schedule. So that pay has increased to $15 per hour, but a lot of counties will tell you it's still not enough. We're seeing some counties offer money on top of that, but even in Wake County, Go Triangle Public Transit offers significantly more than what the local school system is able to provide. And Wake County generally is always able to provide a lot more than other counties. So you kind of see, as markets change, the cost of college is rising. Every teacher needs a college degree. How much debt are they going to go into? North Carolina has held tuition and public institutions better than a lot of other public institutions across the country, but they can still pretty easily rack up a lot of debt. Are you going to get the return on investment that you want as a teacher? So what we really hear is something transformative really needs to happen. And is the money going to be there for that?
Well, as this develops, we know that you'll be reporting on it. Thanks, Emily.
Of course.
That's WRAL Education Insider Emily Walkenhorst for her reporting on bonuses for school employees. Go to the education section of WRAL.com. I'm Jack Hagel. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.